I'm Dr. Connie. I'm your host of Mind Your Health podcast. I share my unique perspective both as a practitioner and a patient battling autoimmune condition for over 25 years because I had to figure things out on my own, and my education in my practical approach as a patient allows me to truly integrate it so that you can be whole and the burden of sick care is no longer your own burden to carry. And this is what we help you with in this podcast.
Okay, here we go. I am so excited. This is Mind Your Health podcast with Dr. Connie, and I have a very special guest, and I think she is the most amazing and the most beautiful and authentic human being. And I'm super excited because we're going to collab together. We're in such alignment together, and I have tons of questions. And to clarify some of our project together that we're going to call Beyond Beauty. This is Tiffany. Tiffany, is it Tiffany Daniels? Is that your name?
Tiffany Daniel Haynes.
Okay. Tiffany Daniel Haynes.
Yeah.
So this is Tiffany. She's the founder of Blessed Beauty and amazing. She does a lot of amazing work. And I think her Instagram handle is Tiffany Daniels is why I keep thinking it's Daniels. Right?
Yeah, it's Tiffany Danielle XO.
Okay. So I just want to start out by saying, and I think I love your brand. And recently you had a change in your brand. It used to be, what was it?
It was Bad Beauty. Yes.
Bad Beauty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I thought it was edgy and it was really good. But
so trendy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I just want you to kind of explain, because I feel like Blessed Beauty is so much more than the name. And I feel like the more I get to know you, you are so much deeper than meets the eye, because somehow, you know, you're so gorgeous and I just think you're that person. But the more I get to peel off the layers and get to know you, there's so much substance beneath the surface, which is what I love. And I loved unpacking that for you as a patient. You came to me as a patient. So tell me about your name, because I feel like you're making a statement.
Oh, for sure. And thank you, Dr. Connie, for having me on here. I am really excited to be a part of this. And I think that it's going to be an amazing project. I think that we're going to make great impact. Yeah. To unpack a little bit about the transition from Bad Beauty to Blessed Beauty, it was really a culmination, I think, of this testament to really how my life has transitioned from this obsession with being, like this boss babe and doing everything independently and doing everything by myself and working really hard. And that's kind of where the concept of Bad Beauty came in. About 5 years ago, I was in a very different place mentally. I thought that, to get what you wanted in life, you had to do everything by yourself and be this just like superwoman. And it was kind of, that era where I think being a girl boss kind of took off, and it was like this hustle and grind mentality. So I really attached to wanting to teach other women, how to get everything they wanted in beauty and in life by just working really hard and doing all the time. But what was really interesting is that concept of Bad Beauty, which I created, years and years ago, really I didn't attach to anymore. It led me to just ultimately feeling down and burnout, and I didn't feel happy or excited about the name of the brand, which I think is interesting, that a name alone can truly spark so much inspiration. So I changed it. I didn't attach to how I felt anymore with my brand. And I thought, this is going to be a scary thing for me, because it meant so much to me. Blessed Beauty meant so much more. So I think it was like me giving a piece of myself to everyone else. And to expose yourself so vulnerably can feel really scary, but it was the greatest thing that I ever did by changing the name of my business and my brand, because it has been like this, just like everything clicked a lot easier. And it's been beautiful. It's been so amazing, and attaching to something that means so much more than just being edgy and trendy and, so physical. It's been a beautiful transformation from the inside out. And I think that really goes along with what we're trying to create here with, Beyond Beauty is that it's not just the physical body. It's not just how you look. It's not just your skin. It's your vitality. It's your radiance. It's everything that you do on a daily basis, that how you show up for yourself and how you love yourself. And all these things combine to create this ultimate full picture, total package, inner outer beauty that just means so much more. And then that doesn't fade. Skin changes, outer beauty changes, but that total package that you've created over years and years and years, that will never fade. That is with you forever. And that's something that you can pass along to other people, I think, in a really beautiful, transformative way as well.
Yeah. I know that you're a single mom raising a beautiful and smart daughter, and we have conversations around that before. And I just feel like you're such a living example, a role model for your daughter. And I see you trying your best to really be in that authentic space and being real with her, because, you shared with me some of the conversations and you revel at what a mature young lady she is.
Yes.
And so I want you to talk about, in the context of that, in today's world, beauty is often just superficial. And I think, you're so active on Instagram, as I am too. And it's so easy for us to lose sight of what really is true beauty, because everybody looks so perfect and is comparing and weighing ourselves against others. So I want you to kind of touch upon how you feel the collaboration between you and me, the functional yoga medicine and blessed beauty, how that will transition women's perspective and beliefs about themselves, redefine beauty, because I really want to shake up the marketplace and really redefine that for women, because you and I talked about how, my gosh, this outer layer is nothing compared to what really makes up for that true beauty and the radiance that comes out naturally. So explain that for me.
Yeah. So I think to fully explain, like how important I think that is, to almost rewind just a little bit where, we talked about Eliza, my daughter, who is she means the world to me, and being a really good example to her is super important. And to go back to when I was her age, this is kind of how the whole story of, my journey started. It started when I was, very impressionable and single digits. And I think we do get this impression of beauty. The first impression of beauty, I think, comes from most times our moms. So for me, that was very true. My mom was this living, breathing example of this very fantastical type beauty. She was radiant and she was beautiful and she moved with effortless, just beauty. She was so confident. And I know I really picked up on that. But it's not necessarily a happy or a beautiful story. It's just the story that is very true, that I did learn my concept of beauty from my mom. That story gets a little twisted because my mom was a drug addict, and she wasn't necessarily teaching me the right concept of self-image and your worth and beauty. But, little did I know at the time, but my entire concept of beauty at the time was being built around this concept that your entire worth, it comes from your physical beauty, After the sun would set every night, it was, the show would begin for my mom. It was like she would put on her makeup and she would fix her hair, and I would watch and I would just be enthralled with this amazing transformation. And that would lead into a night of parties and drugs and alcohol and sex and things that a child should not see. And I was really being taught that you could get anything that you wanted if you were pretty enough. So, I spent the next couple of decades trying to unpack that foundation that was bent. I mean, I spent so much time just bulldozing this very strong foundation that if I was pretty enough, I could get, I would have success. And that's simply not true. So it's really interesting that today my concept is very, very different. And that's, where the whole concept of me wanting to teach my daughter a very different example. And I've been in the beauty industry for 18 years now. And the transformation even at that time has changed. So I've seen every trend. I've tried everything. I was very much focused on physical beauty the first 13, 14 years of my career. And it was about 5 years ago where something happened, something shifted. I wasn't finding fulfillment in anything that I was doing. I was searching and I was praying and I was doing everything that, you should be doing, that, everybody was saying, if you want to find fulfillment, these are the things that you should try to do. But it just wasn't working. I was like overwhelmed with physical body pain. My immune system was wrecked. I was in a relationship that was unhealthy and I was staying in it. And my mental health was just all over the place. And it was years of this, every single day waking up, just not knowing what I was in for. And I would read all these self-help books and try all these things. And it's really interesting how it was like a very pivotal moment. I'll never forget the conversation, but I was working with a private business coach at the time because I've always been very career driven. It's always been really important for me to try to build something for myself. So I was working with the coach and she suggested at the time, she said, you should look into maybe reading these 2 books. They were books. One was on Ayurveda, and then another was a book by Gabby Bernstein, who's like a spiritual, thought leader in the space right now. And she recommended I was dealing with so much physical body pain and immune system issues. And at that point, I was trying everything. So these 2 books, I started reading them and I started putting into practice some of the Ayurvedic principles, which are very natural and holistic. And there's a lot of, a synergy between loving your body and doing things differently. It was like this approach that I had never tried. And, self-massage and getting to know yourself and sitting with yourself and touching your physical body, understanding all of these principles. And, it changed everything. It was a slow process, but it changed everything. And it was really from that point forward that I was just dedicated and driven to try to teach other people what I took way too long to learn. But I think it was really necessary for me to spend years and years in the trenches, feeling all that pain and just feeling hopeless and helpless almost, to a point where it was like I went through every single thing that you could ever imagine, so that when I'm fast forwarded to today and I'm having conversations with women who are going through the same exact thing, it's almost like it was all meant to be. Everything I'd ever gone through was so that when I have these conversations with women who are, going through divorces and they've lost their job, or they're starting a new career, or, they're in their 50s and their 60s and, nothing makes sense for them, or they're having health issues, or they have chronic illness or disease, or they've lost a child, or anything that you could imagine. It's these devastating things that you see these women come in, and I'm having conversations and their heads are hung low and their shoulders are a little sunken, and we spend time together. We're working on beauty, I'm working on their skin, but we're having conversations that are deeper than that. And it's interesting because I didn't realize the transformation that would happen with me when I started working with all these women. But, without fail, every single time that a woman would come in and I would see it in her eyes, you can see it immediately when someone is going through something. To see the transformation in just a one session, 1 hour or 2 hours, having a conversation where we're working on physical beauty, but we're also working on more. We're talking about things that are really important and really deep. Seeing them walk out with their head held higher, that moment was like, I know I can make a difference, and this is why it matters. And to know that, Dr. Connie, like when you and I can work on something and make this on a larger scale, that means everything. Like, we get to make impact on a big level, not just one-on-one, which is the same thing, you know, like you have done a lot of one-on-one work. We've talked about this, but to know that we can make impact in our community and then grow from there. Because, you know, it's compounding. The conversations that you have with your sisters day to day, it spreads like wildfire. Because when you empower people with the tools that they can have to make a difference in their own lives, they pass that along. It's contagious. So I just want to spread this very contagious knowledge with as many people as we can. And so I'm really excited about that. I know I was really long-winded, but I'm very passionate about this, and I'm really excited.
Yeah. Well, I learned a lot about you from our session together. And I just want to say, you've experienced sort of the way I approach things. It's never about testing all the things, knowing that your hormones and everything is out of whack anyway. And so I found that unless we go deeper into it, also, like, I have to really be intuitive about, is this patient open enough to go deeper? Because it's, for me, my work too, is a lot of the times people will come in, please check my hormones. I want this, that. I read Dr. Hyman did this and functional medicine does that. I want that. Check my stool testing or check my hormones. And it's never that. Yes, it's spoken about. And I think a lot of the skilled practitioners do a disservice because they overcomplicate this simple matter, because we're unbalanced because we didn't have the skills. We're not equipped to deal with all the flux of trauma that happens every single day. And one of the things that I looked at, and you were very transparent and open from the get-go, I could see that you've done a lot of work on your own. But one of the stuck segments, if you will, that I saw in you was you never slowed down long enough to allow yourself that time and space. You didn't give yourself enough breathing room, and it was almost like do or die. I cannot sit still. Like, I gotta go. Like, and it was that kind of thing. And I think I almost had to, I didn't go over this the first session with you because I knew, like, you had to be in that space. But the second session we met, and I was very upfront and honest with you about certain things, because I'm all about giving the clients what they want and then give them what they need on the back end. Provided that we can go forward and make sure the door's open, because, you know, they fight or make the rapport happen. Constantly, you have to kind of earn their trust. And there was just a lot of subconscious guarding that was going on with you, even though you were very authentic. And then I think when we sat for a meditation, like a guided meditation together, and it was all about really you coming back to you, to really love yourself, because I think that was the missing piece. Because I do think you're so capable, you're so smart, you have everything on the outset. And then we talked about it's so good, and here comes Tiffany, self-sabotage time, to make something out of nothing and create drama, so that, because you felt so uncomfortable being happy. And I think that was one of the things that we just had to unpack too, because I think that was very uncomfortable for you. Do you remember that?
Yeah. That's also, I would say, in the journey of my life, it was one of the most transformative moments I can remember, is kind of coming to the realization that I was obsessed with discipline. And for the first time in my life, after that conversation we had, and I'm very open-minded. Like, I'm a good student. If I have the tools, I'll try them. I'll try anything. But I had always, like, you know, fallen back on discipline, because discipline had never let me down. It's a form of control, and, you know, like, do. What's really interesting is, after we had pointed out, you had asked me, like, how it would feel if I wasn't so disciplined. And I will never forget that fear that I felt when I imagined not having a very regimented and disciplined day. That fear really was, you know, like a million red flags saying, like, this is what you need to look at, which is something I had never looked at, which I think is why you're, you know, such a great practitioner. You're so intuitive. It's not just something that you can measure. it's more reading between the lines. And that's really, we're humans. It's not just one thing. It's full picture. You have to be able to read between the lines. And sometimes it's hard to pinpoint. So I think it's really amazing that you do the work that you do. And it ultimately led me to, a place to feel comfortable enough to make the change. It was it was less than a week from our conversation about that I changed my business name. I started taking more time without structure, and I thought the wheels would fall off, but I've gotten more done in that amount of time than I ever have in my entire career.
Yeah.
So it's really a testament to, you don't always have to, follow what society has said is the right way. Sometimes you have to unlearn, what you thought worked and try a different way, which is why I think your method is incredible.
Yeah. So something I'll say about you is you were on a perfect, pristine diet. You were working out so regimented, and you had this schedule that was so rigid. And it was like, if you didn't follow through, you were so hard on yourself. And then, so I think we had a conversation around, for people like you, and you came to me with pain in your low back and your hip, because your neck was so tight. You knew all these things, and then you took the time to do the meditation. And notice I said not be the meditation, but do the meditation, did the time, check things off your list. But I asked you this blunt question: is that working for you? Do you feel your best? Because you had this monkey mind that was still trying to destroy exactly what you were trying to establish. So I saw that conflict, that inner conflict. And I felt like a lot of women have this kind of regimen, and they're usually the gorgeous, put together, they look perfect on the outside, but miserable on the inside. So it really goes out to these women, because that's most of us. Seriously. We are so hard on ourselves that the very thing we quote unquote do for our beauty, like go to Tiffany, get the facials. But I think it's the way you make them feel and really process that through as you work on them, that, like you said, they leave with their head held up just a little bit higher. And I think it wasn't for me to say, don't be disciplined, Tiffany. I think the whole conversation was, can we start being while you're doing? Not so be like, do, check this off. It's just check in with yourself.
Yeah.
Take a pause. Nothing will fall away, because you're white gripping that control. I think that's most of us, because we're so insecure, and that comes from that place of fear. We talked about how when we worked together and I got to uncover your past, you never felt really safe, in your upbringing. Everything was very secure. Everything was moving parts, and things weren't around, and you were seeing all these things. And for your young, beautiful, and smart mind, that was a lot of trauma too at the same time. And so when you don't feel that security, I think it's easy for you to fall in the trap of doing. And you're the most disciplined person I know. You're able to do everything. And if you're not doing this, you're doing that, certainly. Even to get you in front of this, for this podcast, it was like either today or it wasn't going to happen until, do you know what I mean? So I'm like, nope, Tiff, we got to do it.
Yeah.
And it was like, buckle down.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that was very, very shifting for you. Right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So anything to add there?
No, I think you nailed it on the head. Everything, you're very, very intuitive, and I'm very grateful for that. I think that ultimately will lead to just this beautiful transformation of us being able to come together in an even stronger and more united front to be able to make impact on everyone else. Because as much as, and as easy as it has been for me to make impact on my clients, with the little struggles I have behind the scenes, it's easier to tell people how to do a certain thing, but it's much more difficult to do it yourself.
Yeah.
But to feel that and know that it works just means that we can make more impact across the board, which is just lights my fire. It's very exciting.
Yeah. And you're one of the rare people that I resonate with and align with. And so to that in mind, I want to kind of talk about inner wellness and outer glow, because our collaboration, when we talked about it, it's the connection between inner wellness and outer glow. That inner wellness is absolutely necessary. And I feel like you're somebody who works on that as much as you do on the outside. Can you share a moment in your practice where you saw this connection transform a client?
Yeah, for sure. So this is kind of what I touched on before. It's not just, one single person, and I can give you specific examples for days. I mean, like I said, I've came in contact with divorced women who have lost their children, their spouses, lost their jobs, as much devastation as you could possibly imagine. We have a lot of deep conversations. So it's not just one. I think ultimately it's every single person that I've ever had conversations with that, we talk about the outer beauty, but we're having conversations that ultimately lead to knowing and trusting that everything you have is right within you. So it's that you're born worthy. You don't have to do anything to change that.
Yes.
It's all within. And I think we've really been, brainwashed that you have to do all these things. You have to do all these treatments. You have to do a certain amount of things in order to somehow become capable and worthy enough to be loved and be beautiful. When no, the way that you were born is exactly how you were supposed to be born. You were put on this earth for a reason. And if you believe that and know that, that can change everything. And knowing that in combination with also, yes, working on the physical on the outside, because that's fun and it's exciting and it feels good. But if you know that you are worthy and you know that in your heart, that's where your beauty starts, you can't stop the radiance on the outside. It just, it glows. It's contagious because people want that same thing. Yeah. Your skin can look good and people can be like, okay, what do you do for your skin? But you are quite literally glowing and radiating. People want to be around you.
Yeah.
And that type of thing can transform you in all kinds of ways. Your relationships are better. Your work is better. You're a better parent. So it starts from within and it just compounds.
Yeah. You disappeared again and I don't know. And you came back. We're good. So, I just want to say that it's the energy I think you're talking about, the energy by which, and I think your intention by which you touch women, that's what goes a long way. And I told you that when you radiate that energy, people want to spend time with you and they're attracted to you. And I think you do that through your social media too. Because one of the first things, I think I met you earlier this year or late last year. And and then I started to follow you because I think you tagged me after one of my classes. And then I was like, oh my gosh. And then you started to pop up on my feed. But everything you said was so genuine and you shared without any apprehension, without any fear of judgment, exactly what happened to you and how you were working through a lot of it. And so it was just very endearing because I feel like women have this tendency, and you touched upon this at the beginning, is we think we have to be superwoman. We have to do it all, look the part and be the certain size and cook and be the perfect women. But I just want to say, you and I are both entrepreneurs. And what I do believe, there is an author speaker that comes to my studio. His name's Dan Thurman. And he talks about, and he has a book out. It's Off Balance on Purpose. And he talks about, we think we're going to achieve balance one day and we're going to be perfect, have all the ducks in a row, but life isn't like that. So he talks about how balance is something you do constantly. Right. And so I think you and I both realize there are times on our business where the business needs us the most.
Yes.
And then that's when we have to manage our family life, put it on a back burner a little bit. But we communicate with our daughter or kids and our husband, sure it's all taken care of, but our focus is here. We're very clear with that intent.
Right.
A little bit more business. And then a lot of the times our husbands might need us, or our man, or our kids. And so there's this shift and balance all the time. And I think that takes a lot of skill. And that's when we have to stop and say, you know what? We're going to be kind to ourselves. We're going to do the best we can. And I think that's sort of what I wanted to get across to you, that we don't have to do it perfect every freaking time. That sometimes we have to give us the luxury to stop and say, hey, is this working? Do I feel my best? Am I physically okay? Because if I'm not, chances are that you're not in alignment with whatever it is that you're doing.
Right.
And that's one of the things that kind of you recognized really fast. Now, I want to ask you something. So I want you to talk about self-care, because I think women think about getting facials with Tiffany might be an overindulgence. I see that as self-love. I see that as taking care of me. I see that as almost therapeutic time with Tiff. And so I want you to redefine what self-care means to you, that it's not something that we indulge as if, we're something. It's because silently, I don't know about you, but a lot of women speak in their heads, who do you think you are?
For sure.
They think about the cost, but I'm like, it's money well spent.
Right.
It's for me. So speak on that a little bit.
Yeah. And I think that self-care can be in a form of many ways. I think, tangibly investing money is a form of self-care because, it is an investment. It's like an energy exchange. You worked really hard to earn that money, and then you invest it in someone else. So I think that form of energy exchange is really important, but I think there are other ways that self-care can come without, a tangible exchange of energy like money. But I think it's crucial regardless of the modality. I think making sure that there is some form of self-care happening and knowing that it's not selfish, you're not conceited, you don't think you're all that in a bag of chips. Self-care is really about making sure that you are taken care of in a way that you feel, like giddy and giggly and laughy. Happy. Yeah. Like, that feeling you get when your heart feels like it wants to explode. That feeling is what I get personally when I am doing certain things with self-care. And that can be a multitude of things. So self-care looks very different for me. It could be even, doing it with someone else, like cooking with someone. A lot of times is a form of self-care for me. I think feeling what that is, for me, I know it comes when I get that feeling in my heart. I think self-care can look very, very different to each person, but and I think something to make yourself a better version today and in the future ultimately
it's a necessity, Tiff. Yeah. So, and I think you talked about how you are into this self-development, and I think a lot of us fall into that, especially if we don't like ourselves and we didn't have good models in our lives. But then also too, the way I want them to look at it is, like investing my time to go see you for a facial. That to me is, I'm doing something to take care of me that my future self will thank me later, because it uplifts my mood. I feel good about myself. I love the way Tiffany makes me feel glowy. Like, these are all good reasons, and they're reasons enough. And I feel like, which leads me to my next question is, I'm super duper excited about our collab. I think you and I totally align on multitude of levels, but one of the biggest alignments that I have with you is your authentic nature to speak the truth. And you're you're a person full of humility, meaning you're not going to give me the pretentious version of you. And I just feel like you're somebody that I can trust to be open with and have difficult conversations with. And I think this is really important in our women world, because I think a lot of you uplift everybody, and I just feel like as a woman, it's really hard to find. I don't know if you notice that, but we're usually our own worst enemy because and I think it comes from the place of not feeling good about ourselves. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So I want you to talk about the excitement around our collab and how you envision this to change, because I think you and I are beyond doing hands-on work with our own clientele. I think you and I talked about how this project of ours, the collab project, Beyond Beauty, it's all about the inner meets the outer, that everybody is beautiful in their own imperfections. But it's when we step into it and we empower ourselves to be as confident as we can be. And I feel like our collab will help women kind of have the skills necessary to reframe and rewire our brains to believe and open up our perspective. Can you speak on that?
Yeah, for sure. I think that it's so exciting for me because I think what's really happening at a very basic level is it's like all of the years that Connie, you and I have researched and been guinea pigs and tried everything and done everything, and the amount of medical journals that I've read that have to do with clinical trials for beauty and this and that and that. It's like, I would never expect the average person to read and do all that in order to get where we are. And I think that's really what it's about. It's like taking all of these years of experience that we've been through, condensing it into like really the most important parts and unpacking what we think is really crucial, making it really simple and doable because everybody's busy and the information is so saturated. If you were to go on a social media outlet, which now studies are showing that TikTok and Instagram are used for questions more than Google is. So like if you were to go on like Instagram or TikTok and Google, what can I do to be more beautiful? Everything that pops up is going to tell you, get your hair highlighted blonde, or go get Botox or filler or injectables, or get a myriad of laser treatments, which is, I'm totally for all of those things. But that would be the very cookie cutter answer. And that's ultimately where we've all been. We know that doesn't actually lead you to feeling better, to feeling beautiful, to being radiant, to having vitality. Those things don't fix what we're looking for. And that's what's really happening. We're trying to figure out how to be beautiful because we're looking for something. We don't realize it though. I think education is going to be paramount and changing the minds of so many people by just saying, you don't want this. You don't want to look like this. You don't want, overfilled lips and an overfilled face. That's not what you're looking for. But you are looking for something. You're looking for fulfillment. You're looking for something. And by helping people understand that it's not just on the outside, but helping them know that there are so many things that you can do by changing your lifestyle, by having a really beautiful and soft and sweet fitness routine, by having a clean diet and doing things in your lifestyle like getting enough sun exposure and moving your body outside and being with your family and your friends and community. All these things in combination actually lead you to feeling beautiful. I think just educating people on that is going to make a world of difference, and it can replace, this search of what can I do to feel beautiful, because they're missing something. Yeah. So I think by educating them on a different way of approaching life will lead them to feeling more beautiful, starting from their heart and their mind.
Yeah. Because what I'll leave with is to kind of talk about how disciplined action that you are taking. Some people need the opposite end of that. They need more discipline in their lives.
Absolutely.
And also, too, having been a clinician for over 25 years, I can tell you that it's not, we all know what we ought to be doing. It's just, can we get ourselves to do the thing, right? And then there's the flip side for Tiffany. It's like, I can do all the things, but why am I not getting the results? Right. Well, it's almost like we have to better understand ourselves, understand what our body needs. And that requires us to be fully in alignment And I think you're a living epitome of somebody who is on the path of being aligned full-heartedly with yourself. And that's why I think you're so energetically radiant all around. You know what I mean? And from that place, then when we do all the things that feel right for us, do the facials with do all the things, it just naturally glows 10 times more than it would just fixing the outside and hoping for it. Because I usually say you can turn on the engine, and then if that engine makes all the cranky and really loud noise, but the paint job on the outside is perfect, well, what good is that, right? We want to be driving smooth. We want to go fast when we want, brake sharp when we need to. Like, we need the flexibility approach. And so it all comes down to getting back authentically in alignment with yourself, naysaying all the things that are out there, but finding the beauty from within to outside. And I think that's the collab between Tiff, Blessed Beauty, and Functional Yoga Medicine. We are so aligned in that way, you guys. I want you guys to stay tuned for so much magic to unfold in both of our Instagram posts and everything beyond. And I just want to say, please meet Tiffany. She's coming and representing Blessed Beauty, and she has so much surprises along the way of what she's going to do with this brand. We're going to showcase that partially at our anniversary party coming up in November. I believe it's November 9th, right, Tiffany? I'm pretty sure it is. So please stay tuned for it. Follow us both, and I will tag Tiffany when this goes out live, which is next week. And I will make sure, Tiff, that you get this link so you can share it on your Instagram as well. Do you have anything, last remarks, Tiff?
No, this has been an amazing conversation. I am so excited about, spreading the good word. I think that it's going to be an amazing and very easy and simple path to follow to make such big change in all of our community around us. I'm really excited.
And can I say something about you and me is I think we're very rare women that have experienced the pit lows of our lives to really forced into working on ourselves in the way we have. And I think the strength and the resonance with each other comes from that strong place. We both had to work on being empowered rather than being defined by our broken pieces of our lives. Because I think we both, parallel to one another, built our lives in a way where it's constructive and it helps other women and uplifts other people. And we chose that path for a reason. And all the women listening out there, that's possible for you. And we just want to say, Tiff and I feel the same way. You guys are all beautiful in your own right. And that's really the beauty of Beyond Beauty project that we're going to put out there. So Tiff, I will see you more. You're going to share more on this podcast. So you're going to be a frequent flyer with me. Thank you so much for your time. Mwah. Have a good trip.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Mind Your Health podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, we would so much love it and appreciate it if you share it with someone who could benefit as well as to subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else where podcasts are found. And leave us a review. We would be so grateful, and it helps us to reach more people just like you, so you can become more empowered to enjoy longevity and health. You can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Dr. Connie Chung. And of course, you can subscribe to this podcast for a new episode every single week.